Hey Global Village, what's up? Okay, today I want to talk about Israeli and Zionist influence over in Australia and by extension here in New Zealand. Uh, the first thing I'm going to do is just play a short excerpt from Mehdi Hassan's new Zateo channel because they have just released an extremely interesting interview with an Australian journalist who was uh, unlawfully censored for expressing pro-Palestinian sentiment on her social media. So let me just go ahead and play this.
Far too often, we see big news organizations around the world bow to Israel's talking points and even bend the rules to make sure their narrative is the only one reported. But in a rare win for those with principles, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, ABC, could not get away with what many news organizations here in the US are getting away with, which is the silencing of the voices of their journalists. In December of 2023, ABC in Australia fired journalist Antoinette Lattouf in what a judge later described as an orchestrated campaign by pro-Israel lobbyists to have her taken off air. Lattouf was being targeted after an investigation she worked on revealed that video shared by the Australian Jewish Association from a pro-Palestine protest was doctored to depict protesters chanting anti-Semitic slurs. She went on to sue ABC for unlawful termination and won.
Okay, so I am going to link this interview in the comments and description because it's well worth listening to if this is you just want to hear what she has to say about her experience. And I thought this would be just a useful kicking off point to a personal anecdote I just have recently experienced, which honestly was as enlightening as it was disturbing. So I teach a yoga class once a week with a beautiful community. I've been teaching this class for almost 20 years, I would say. So these are people that are almost like family to me, and I love the community dearly. Now, several years ago, I lost most of my eyesight, and because of that, I was no longer able to drive. And so I use a driving service to get to and from my class. And because of that, every now and again, I've been known to leave my mobile phone at the class because I actually play my music through it. And I'm awfully absent-minded, and on occasion I get home and then realise I've left my phone at the gym, which is a massive inconvenience when I can no longer just jump in my car and drive back to pick it up. So in order to lighten the load, I wandered across the street to one of my other neighbours, and I tried to knock on the door so I could get them to phone me a taxi so I could head off and pick up my phone. And they didn't answer the door, so I decided to wander over to another neighbour who I don't know nearly so well, and I thought I'd try and ask them. And I knocked on the door, and they came and answered. And it turns out this family, who are from the Philippines, are deeply Christian. And they are proud of this fact, and I'm sure they should be. Although I don't know these people well, the lady of the house, I have seen her many times working outside on their garden, which is clearly her pride and joy. And I would literally call it the best garden on the street. She really works very hard to create this magnificent little slice of paradise. They've got this gorgeous little miniature willow tree set out the front there as well. It's just beautiful. Anyway, they invited me into the house, and I said, look, I'm wondering if you could just call me a taxi so I can go and pick up my phone. And they said, oh, no, sit down, we'll make you a cup of coffee and let's just have a bit of a chat. And so I ended up talking to them, and this is where I got to meet their son. And during the course of our discussion, we talked about all of the terrible things going on in the world. And, of course, one of the things I talked about was what was happening in Palestine, because that is an issue that's near and dear to my heart. And I got a lot of pushback from the son For example, one of the things he said was, well, those children are being taught to wield machine guns. I've seen videos of it. What do you expect Israel to do when their children are running around with machine guns? Now, I was a little bit flabbergasted with this take. Like, I didn't quite know how to respond to it because I just wasn't expecting him to say something like that. Fortunately, his mother came to my rescue and she said, well, you just can't believe what you see online because, a lot of this is just AI videos. Of course, I agreed with her sentiment there that this was just perhaps, a situation where you're being sold a story which really doesn't stand up to critical analysis. Because certainly with 40,000 kids being assassinated, the idea that all these children deserve to die because they're wielding machine guns, is obviously quite idiotic. Nonetheless, he was being sincere with his statement. This is what he truly believed. And anyway, after we talked a little bit more, eventually, and it was a really lovely opportunity I got to get to know these people better. And, I came away from it sort of feeling like somehow my misfortune at leaving my phone at the gym had turned out to be a positive because I sort of got to know some of my neighbours a lot better, and they really do seem like lovely people. Now, the son said, look, don't worry about the taxi. I'm going to drive you to the gym so you can just pick it up. It's not far. Let's go. And so with a little bit of protestation on my part because I genuinely felt uncomfortable with this, but they, insisted they were not going to phone that taxi. So I got into the car with him. Now, one of the things that happened while we were driving was that he again reiterated the fact. He said, I'm a Christian. Now, obviously when people tell me this in an unsolicited way, it's because they're proud of the fact. They're proud that they're Christians, and they think that it implies that they have a level of moral, they have a platform of moral high ground that they exist upon. And, so it's something they want the world to know. My personal opinion is I honestly don't care what someone's personal beliefs are. By our actions are we known. It's just not something that matters to me. But anyway, it mattered to him. Now, it mattered so much to him that in fact he was playing on the radio. He was clearly playing a Christian radio station. And I don't listen to Christian radio. So this was a real eye-opener for me, because in the course of a, 20-minute drive there, 20-minute drive back, I heard at least 3 or 4 clearly sponsored and paid for advertisements for the state of Israel. And it was quite remarkable to hear frankly, the way these advertisements were framing Israel as a country. They were framing Israel as a country under siege, a country that desperately needed your money and your donations. They asked several times, please pray for Israel. We need your help. We need your prayers. We need your support. Israel are under siege and are the victims of I'm not sure what they think they're the victims of, but they need your money, they need your prayers. So when I came away from that, I understood a little bit more why he felt the way he did, why he believed that Israel are clearly the victims in the conflict between Israel and Gaza, despite the fact that Israel receives billions of dollars of funding from American taxpayers' money, have access to some of the most sophisticated and advanced weapons on the face of the planet, and were engaging what is effectively a guerrilla army that themselves are armed and equipped often with the unspent weapons and ordnance that Israel themselves have dropped on Palestine. So yeah, it gave me a very new and disturbing insight. So when it comes to New Zealand, what is the vector of attack that Israel are using to influence everyday Kiwis? Well, it certainly appears that those that are of the Christian disposition, they are spending up large to engage in the propaganda war. Now, I just want to point out here, in the name of balance, I am not blind to the fact, although I am actually quite blind in reality, that the likes of Al Jazeera are very much their own form of propaganda. It's very obvious to me that Al Jazeera, spinning their own narrative. Now, I think they provide a very important service when it comes to balance with regards to what's happening in Palestine, because it's impossible to find another mainstream media, English-speaking, that in any shape or form provides even a fraction of the insight of what level of suffering the Palestinian people are going through right now. And so Al Jazeera do that, and that's a great balancing force. However, Al Jazeera are, of course, owned by Qatar, and Qatar are heavily funded and in bed with the American imperialist agenda. And no more could this have been more apparent than when Al Jazeera gave Trump a $500 million jumbo jet. I mean, it just doesn't get more blatant. Now, I just want to say that if a while ago I went on to Al Jazeera Live, and I tried to type a comment into their live chat. And in that comment, I simply said, Al Jazeera should ask for their money back with regards to the jumbo jet they gave to Trump. And that comment was immediately deleted, like instantly. So they have some sort of auto bot-based censorship that just deletes anything that refers to the jumbo jet. Something along those lines must be happening. And it demonstrates that Al Jazeera are not into free speech either. So if you try to in any way criticize them, even if obliquely, they will simply eliminate that conversation. So everyone's playing the game. Everyone's playing the propaganda game. And that propaganda game is alive and well here in New Zealand. And as I said, the vector of attack seems to be through Christian news broadcasts. I would say that more secular news do not appear to carry or broadcast that type of messaging. So, fair play there. We don't do that. But it is here, and to what extent the Israeli lobbyist group and how much has Israeli money infiltrated New Zealand, I really couldn't say. It's not something that I'm particularly aware of, but it's certainly extremely prevalent in Australia, and there are many, many in-your-face examples of it, of which this particular interview clearly demonstrates. So again, well worth checking out this interview, and if it's infiltrated Australia to that degree, then surely it must also have significantly infiltrated New Zealand just across the ditch. I mean, one last thing I will say, New Zealand's utter cowardly silence when it comes to any pushback against the Israeli narrative is quite damning evidence in its own right. For example, we have not even been willing to recognise the Palestinian statehood, which is something that, for all its faults, Australia has managed to do. So we're even worse in that regards. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. Bendy out.